All right, we're back here for the final round for all of the marbles here during Modern Mondays at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. We are Portland Paper. I'm Travis Cooper, hanging out with Ian Lunger, and we are watching the final round. We've got a matchup of Golgari Rock, which we saw Andrew earlier, and Bradley Brown. There was some weird stuff that happened with some draws and things like that. And so here we find ourselves with Bradley 3-0 and Andrew 2-0 and 1. Response to chat, yes, we said 8 minutes 2 hours ago, but you know, time and round happens, and people sort of like when time and round happens, it's like when you pull up your recliner, kick your feet out, and you're like, I can think about my turn for 4 minutes now. And so yeah, we were waiting some time. But so okay, so this is something interesting. Bradley Brown, local grinder, regular to the stream, almost always plays either burn or red prison of some sort, land destruction, red prison-y type things. Is playing Tron right now, which I feel like that's kind of a fun thing to do in a local meta when you like you're known as like this, like you're the Jeskai player, you're the burn player, and then you like pivot for an evening, and it's a very fun thing to do. Yeah, chat asked if the payout is on record, and yes, that is correct for these weekly tournaments because you don't like cut to top 8. It's the payout is just based on your record at the end of the event. And we had a relic turn 1 for Bradley, and we got a Goyf turn 2 for Andrew.
Just like peanut butter and jelly, relics and goifs. Just really help each other out.
Isn't that like oil and water?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a Tron piece, and we have a cavern naming Eldrazi. This is Etron is always like sometimes it just like stomps people, and then sometimes it has like this strangest like curve of like I've got Tron piece plus cavern plus a waste and an Eldrazi temple, and it's like it seems very incoherent sometimes with the land drops, but also plays on curve pretty well from like from 3 on up. So
Also is going to have this goif be a 1-2 by the time it attacks, as Relic's likely going to tap to exile the Liliana. So, do you get in for 1? You do. All right.
All right, we rumbled for 1. Bradley discarded a Reality Smasher.
Okay, that looks like a saga drawn for Bradley. You know, we're doing the E-Tron thing.
Oh my gosh.
Sitting on 2 Urza's Mines. And some number of Reality Smashers. At least 1 more in hand. Andrew is sitting on another Liliana in hand, so Andrew finding 3 Lilianas to start this game.
All right, it's Bobble to start us off, and
Looks like we are going to Boseiju the Saga.
floating a mana. I feel like that mana might. I don't know if you want to. If Bradley has a bad hand, maybe it's worth blowing up this relic, but it has a lot of utility right now.
Could just be being a good Magic player and floating the mana in general. This is going to grow the Goyf quite a bit unless Bradley exiles their own Saga. I think
Liliana's going up.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot tougher at this point for Bradley to just tap the relic to keep the Goyf smaller. So it is possible that we see Bradley blow it up in the interest of preserving the life total. The nice thing if you're on Bradley's side is 1 Reality Smasher attack is going to take out, well, I guess it won't take out Lily because it's unless Bradley has an Eldrazi Temple wrapped up in hand, we're not going to see Smasher until Lily's hit 6.
Exile all of the cards from our graveyards. Okay. And I will draw a card.
Okay, Bradley's going to turn the Goyf back into an 0-1.
Sorry, when did you do that?
Before damage.
Take no damage on the attack.
So not on declaration of attacks, or like what exactly? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's say before damage.
Okay.
Andrew is empty-handed.
All right. Second main, I will just crack it.
Okay, in response, I'm going to Warping Whale to exile.
And it looks like end of turn we are going to see spatial contortion,
I will.
So Goyf is exiled. The
which
bubbles
will
are
take out the
I will.
Goyf. Can
All
we
right,
take
so
out the
we
Goyf?
were discussing what sequence of things happened, and basically Bradley was exiling the graveyard, and then Andrew was going to pop the bauble, and then in response, after the graveyard was exiled, Bradley, when the
Okay.
bauble was on the stack.
Yeah, this is actually important. So Boseiju, I don't believe Bradley can get a
Yeah,
waste.
he can, it's a basic land type.
No, I don't actually think
yeah,
it is.
Okay, yeah, go get him. Go get him,
Okay.
Ian.
That's the artifact, or like turn something into artifact. Correct. Or turns a non-land artifact.
We might have a judge call.
I don't know if we can get waste. Don't think we can get waste off Boseiju.
Is it not a
I don't think it counts as a basic land
Okay.
type.
really?
Yeah, but let's call a judge.
Okay.
Just to confirm, but I'm pretty
All right, Ian is out there getting them to call a judge. Because, yeah, I think we're so used to seeing cards that are like, go get a basic land. And waste is, in fact, a basic land. But it is not, like, waste is not a land type.
Can I fetch wastes off of a Boseiju?
It just says basic land type.
Basic land type.
With a basic land type, wastes do not have a basic land type. You cannot grab a waste.
Okay.
Okay.
How would you like us to resolve this? This was
Yes.
like 2 turns ago.
Oh boy. And we've had
Other things have happened.
It wouldn't stop the card, but
yeah,
I don't think it would have stopped anything else.
if it okay,
Chat mentioning that's a real reason why you should play a basic swamp. I think that is an interesting
there's nothing that required colorless that
observation
needed
where
that
I feel like
land specifically to
pre-Boseiju,
work
there's,
Nope.
I mean, everything was like fetch a basic, and, you know, waste hits that with like Field of Ruin or Ghost Quarter or whatever you're expecting to
honestly,
see. Path to
like-
Exile, maybe. But yeah,
see, so what-
the get
well,
basic
what-
land
out
type
in,
is a novel and sort of
response to
new
Yeah, so that was that
rules text
before
on a
you-
card.
That was that was before I popped the relic the first time. So that was last combat. Is that right?
Yes, so I would
Okay.
have had a Goyf.
So
It
it
also
is now
makes
earlier in
Boseiju
my
very
first
good
main phase,
against
I have drawn
Eldrazi
Yeah,
Tron.
that it does.
Okay.
Played
so-
a land for turn.
Right. I played a land for turn.
Yeah.
And so like he attacked with the Goyf. I popped my relic.
Still
for
kind
turn,
of discussing
everything, I warped
what's
the
going on here.
All of these things happened.
Yeah.
And got a waste off of the Boseiju. So that was the last.
I imagine that Swamp is the right choice because they're playing some number of Dismember oftentimes.
Oh, that's right.
Is that, you think that's why you would pick Swamp?
Yeah, the only thing is
The only
the
thing
waste
is,
they have
Yeah.
on board
yeah.
doesn't-
I think that is the answer.
I'm inclined to say we could just switch that waste out with another basic from your deck
Yeah.
because
I'll
it
solve
wouldn't.
that problem right now. Is
Yeah.
I don't have one.
Ooh,
I am playing wastes.
ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, that does.
Still discussing here.
Now, this is, okay, chat, thanks for joining us, and you get to see a judge call. This is what this happens so often in Magic events where when you're not on camera, things like this happen all the time. Even with, like, experienced and very good players, Bradley would qualify as both of those, but you like, think an interaction works a certain way, maybe you haven't played with your own Boseiju, and then you make a critical, like, misrepresentation of the game state is what happened, and then when you're on camera, we have things like 100 people in chat that are sometimes not as smart, sometimes way smarter than the people in the booth that can point out things like this and then get a judge call. But I imagine it like if you're at whatever your SEG Con or your Hunter Burton, like the tables that aren't on coverage, this kind of stuff happens all the time. It just sort of like slides by.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing in paper Magic, right? And there is like an unfortunate degree of angle shooting that can come out of it, even though I don't think that that's normally what's happening, and I don't think that that's what's happening here. But that is kind of like the kind of unintentional thing that can happen.
That seems fair, yeah.
But then there's also the really annoying thing with MTGO where it has bugs. Like right now,
Right.
dress down doesn't work on MTGO. So if you like cast a dress down in response to Primeval Titan still does its thing. And so it's a bit more like in paper, the onus is on you to like catch those things and maintain
Right.
the game state. And when you're playing digital Magic, it's like, well, if it's wrong, you can't call a judge.
Yeah, it turns out there's no perfect version of Magic. In any case, it looks like we are getting the board state back to a point where Bradley was merely strip mined by the Boseiju, which feels bad.
I mean, that's a sweet card. I love a strip mine.
Me too.
I feel like I need to go Reds.
Waste was not drawn. Waste was found off Boseiju incorrectly to update chat.
Yeah, okay, we'll go Goif. Two.
That's a 2-3 current.
And then
All right, Andrew's going to
Liana.
toss out, it looks like another Goif,
This
uptick the Lily.
So one more.
creature, so it's a 4/5.
And
All right, this Lily is doing work, especially against a deck like Etron where you need some critical mass of like land synergies before you can start deploying your like really like big threats. It gets awkward to have an active Liliana when you don't have the amount of mana that you need for your deck to function yet. Because you're not going to play like a 1-mana spell that's going to like get you back in the game.
So it looks like Andrew is sitting on a Lily at 6. If you're on Andrew's side, do you ult the Lily here? Or do you try and get a little greedy maybe and get it up to 7 and then think about ulting it the next turn?
I think I get greedy because the only thing that can really deal with it is maybe a Reality Smasher, and then Bradley would have to draw like Temple plus have Smasher in hand. So I very much like making Bradley discard another card.
And Andrew's going to go ahead and activate the Saga to make a construct and grab Shadow Spear. For reference, chat, the extremely shiny card is a construct token.
It is foil. It's reflecting all the light of the entire fluorescence in the building, which is quite large.
And it looks like we're going to tick down the Lily here. Interesting. So that will get another land into play for Bradley. It's going to allow Andrew to get in here. I think I might have just cashed in the Lily for 2 cards there. I guess it probably would have been the Matter Shaper plus 1 land. Would have likely been what you would have taken. Maybe you leave Bradley with a mine and a cavern.
I'm in your boat. I would have made the greedy play of upticking, but this is sort of like the worst.
No, I meant like down tick to ult.
Oh
is
yeah,
what I
yeah.
would have done.
I'm either upticking or ultimating, but I
Sure.
would have probably upticked. So
Gotcha.
You do. You could. Yes, I suppose you could keep your Lily at 1.
So Andrew deciding whether to block. Looks like Reality Smashers come in. We're deciding whether to block with the construct token to keep the Lily alive at 1, as it had ticked down to 4.
I don't know if you know this, but 2 of them are in the Goif.
It's true. It's true. They're hard to come by these days.
Draw for turn. Go Urborg.
Looks like Urborg drawn off the top. Grist maybe the Planeswalker in hand for Andrew.
I think we have a Witherbloom command or Culligan's command, or yeah, Witherbloom.
Yeah.
Maybe no, that's a Grist.
So there's Grist. I believe that should be able to.
Oh,
He have to sack the Goyf. Doesn't really seem too worth it. I think you're just making a.
Mill a card.
I think you're just making a insect here.
I'm so excited I haven't gone.
Yeah, because you'd have to discard a card as well. So
I don't think. I think.
is it just spells? not
Yeah, I
abilities?
think it's
Okay.
just spells. Because I think we had an instance with Solitude recently where.
Oh right.
And,
Okay, that makes sense.
5, 6.
And the Goyf is outsizing the Reality Smasher anyway, so there's kind of some onus on Bradley to make the play. Although we also know that Bradley has a Karn in hand, so I mean, Bradley has things to do with that mana. If Andrew's just gonna kind of let him play things out here, so it looks like we're upticking Lily again.
Oh, that's another reality smash. Bradley chooses to keep something that's not a reality smasher.
And
So Karn then.
Hoping for a land.
I mean, if you somehow hit Tron here, if you hit, looks like Power Plant's the missing piece.
Well,
If
that's
you
good.
ripped Power Plant off the top, you would have access to tons of mana with Karn. I think you could easily. I don't know what you'd go for. You should be able to, at least here you could get a Pithing Needle.
I
so
think we
that's an
drew a
option.
pithing needle.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And if there is another Needle in board, you could go for Needle. You could try to Needle both walkers.
I think we're gonna play needle and cast. We got a Tormod script from the Karn board, and we've got a needle in hand.
Okay, Tormod's Crypt is in play. So threatening to shrink the Goyf rather significantly.
Oh, never mind. Yes, I'm declaring attacks at Liliana. Tell you.
What's
Yes,
in your
I
turn?
have creature, instance.
Right, we're attacking Liliana with this reality smasher.
I'll just have Lily on die.
And then I'm going to cast a.
So that's going to take out Lily.
And needle is naming grist.
Yep, 7. I'll cast you.
And, you know, that's the thing you can do with this this E-Tron deck. Like, one Karn
Put a die on it.
and a decent rip off the top, and you're just right back in it.
It's big.
Right, looks like an Elvish Reclaimer was a pickup for Andrew. You kind of don't. I mean, that's a tricky situation with this crypt out, because you don't want to really go into putting your Shadow Spear. I guess you can put Shadow Spear on Goyf and attack down Karn, so if it minuses, it's going to at least take 1. Or if it
Well-
minuses, it'll at least go away if it's on 2 loyalty.
I think you can kill it, because the thing is, the Crypt can only take out 1 of the 2 yards. So Goyf's not going to get down to be that small.
So it's a 2/3, so my Karn's going to die anyway. Yeah, you got it.
All right, both of them went at Karn.
And pass turn.
And this is the point where E-Tron, I mean, you're just hoping to rip bangers off the top. That's not a terrible place to be for the deck. I mean, it has a lot of good top decks.
So he's down to
0. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
4.
Yeah, artifact, planeswalker.
Bradley's going to go for the yard. Goyf's still going to be fairly large. I think we have instant, planeswalker, creature, artifact at the very least.
Yeah,
so
that's the count right now.
I'm gonna attack you for 5.
And coming into Andrew for 5. So Reality Smasher, not Reality Blocker. And we got a Ballista for 2.
would be able to block the Goyf and take out the Reclaimer. Not a bad place to be. I imagine you want to...
5, 6.
Okay, so we're not even going to worry about activating that Reclaimer. I think then you probably swing... I guess you're just swinging with the Goyf here. I like putting the Shadow Spear on the Goyf. It's going to make this block look a lot worse for Bradley, as it's pretty clear that Bradley was looking to block and then ping down another creature on Andrew's side. And if you do that in this case, you're taking a bunch of damage to the face.
That's it. Looks like Bradley just goes down to 9, does not block. Maybe hopes to rip a Tron piece to pump up this ballista or something else good.
Second ballista. It's just they're a little undersized when you don't actually have Tron against the Goyf with the Shadow Spear. Although I guess you can double block Reality Smasher and a ballista, trade for the Goyf, but you get blown out fairly easily depending on what's in Andrew's hand.
Moving to combat.
Although you can kind of know that Andrew's not going to be able. I think you probably just block with everything here, because Andrew's not going to be able to take out the Reality Smasher with only one card in hand.
We're getting it deep in the sauce there. I think I agree with you. But
And I believe that's a Dark Confidant that Andrew got off the top.
and we have these reclaimers out that could start doing some stuff, doing some grinding.
Interesting. So Andrew decides to activate the Reclaimer. I think I would have played the Dark Confidant here.
There may have been some trauma from the last Dark Confidant flipping over 7-ball.
We've got the Shadow Spear out though, so that's providing quite a bit of insulation.
As being a bit of facetiousness there.
Yeah. Of note, that Saga in play is tapped. We would correct that if anything comes of it, but I don't imagine we will see that.
I'll take 4.
I'm gonna pump ballista 4 damage. I'll take 5. Go ahead.
Bradley's been very aggressive with their board position. What do you think? What do you think about Bradley's choice to attack there?
Sure. Battery Shaper. You go to 12.
I feel like I can't give a best line analysis right now. I feel like being aggressive is fine.
You're right. Sorry, so you're at 17 now? Okay.
Especially if you're pumping at the ballista seems valuable, so you can like potentially shoot something that the Shadow Spear moves on. I mean, you're just gonna shoot this Dark Confidant, I assume.
Oh yeah, I guess that's why playing Dark Confidant was bad, huh? It's very easily taken out by a single ballista ping.
Hit you for free.
I will ping.
Looks like we're coming in Insect +2 Elvish Reclaimers.
All right, taking out 1 Reclaimer.
I'll take 2. You go to 7.
Pass turn.
Gonna take 2.
I mean,
There's the Eldrazi Temple right on time.
Yeah. I'll attack you for 3.
I'll take.
Bradley's getting in again. I mean, I think there is something to be said for Bradley's aggression. Maybe feeling like this, not going to win this game, just kind of sitting around, giving Andrew time to put Shadow Spears on things, etc., etc. At the very least, you can kind of keep forcing Andrew to dump mana into, like, trying to equip Shadow Spear to a creature, and they're still not big enough to be able to withstand ballista pings. But I imagine Andrew's going to, at some point, just kind of sit back and start to make constructs.
Yeah, I'm gonna make constructs. Sure.
well, that is what is happening. We're making a construct. We're gonna go search. Nihil Spellbomb, just looking for maybe a redraw in the future. Guess that signals no Pithing Needle in the main deck, because that would have been the get to stop those ballistas from
I'll hit you for
using activated abilities.
5.
All right, Bradley down to 5.
and pass turn.
Bradley's sitting on a pile of lands, but does not have Tron completed.
Matter Reshaper.
Good buddy Matter Reshaper. That's a speed bump.
I'm gonna Besage you with Pithing Needle.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, Pithing Needle is Besaged.
I am going to downtick to 2, sack my insect, and I'll blow up the 3 power Welcome Ballista.
Which one? The 1 power?
Oh, that's 1 power. Okay. 2.
Yeah. I will pump this one,
Bradley gonna add a counter to the ballista here.
and I'll. Sorry, this is a 2. I'm gonna pump this one actually, and I'm gonna kill Grist in response.
Pretty free to take out the grist.
And
Boseiju in this matchup representing, you know, basically just destroy a permanent. It's an Assassin's Trophy minus the ability to grab a land.
Saga Besage.
It's a Vindicate,
3/4.
I would say. It's a 2-mana Vindicate.
Combat,
Sure.
I'm just gonna get rid of both these guys. 3/3 and a 3/4.
Yeah, I'll.
Getting in with a
Could rip off the top.
3/3 construct.
And
And
I'll ping the Reclaimer once.
let's see, what are we at for the Reclaimer? Is the Reclaimer up to a 3/4? Looks like it
Gotcha.
would be a 3/4 at this point.
Reshaper dies, trigger, Chalice on 0.
Flips a Chalice.
Does
That's
that
my
per-
turn.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Not the best flip. Not really what you're hoping for.
It's a clear board finally.
No, there, Bradley hits the land. So that is Tron completed, but,
That's all say go.
you know, all dressed up and no place to
So
go.
that also would prevent casting.
Mistress Bobble.
Does Bradley have to put the Chalice into play? I thought with Reshaper you could just put it into your hand.
You can. Yeah.
You gotta go ahead.
I
Gotta
think I
go
would
with-
have liked to have seen Bradley put the Chalice in hand rather than into play for 0. And there's the second power plant.
Well, I feel vindicated for staying alive as long as I did.
All right,
After
looks like
getting
Andrew
destroyed.
Lockhart is going to take game 1. And we'll move to sideboard. Surgical Extraction. I mean, in your traditional Tron matchup, you're thinking Boseiju into Surgical is a great move. This is a little bit more of an awkward scenario. Also looks like Andrew is thinking about putting the Assassin's Trophy in. I want to say Assassin's Trophy has kind of the unfortunate wording for Andrew that it's not going to work. It's going to be a worse Boseiju, as I believe Assassin's Trophy will allow Bradley to search for a wastes. Put in.
Should've got the relic that turn.
Yeah, it's a good point by Ross that Bradley can either like Karn for a needle or find some way to grab a needle the Boseiju. It's a heads up play for sure. Bradley will get to be on the play for this game. I think that's a very real advantage for the E-Tron deck, kind of depending on his keep.
It's all of your fans watching the stream.
It's my wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's not watching the stream,
Exactly.
but was asking if I wouldn't mind getting snacks. And I'm like, oh,
Nice. What are you gonna get?
good question. Probably beer and something.
Nice. There's a. You ever been to Zach Shack, the hot dog place on Hawthorne?
Voidwalker, good in this matchup, but not as good as it is against your kind of traditional mono green Tron, where you can really take something extremely impactful. There's a number of decent cards you can hit if you can make them discard a Reality Smasher or
Yeah, it's on like
a Karn the Grey Creator.
45th and Hawthorne, I think.
It's pretty good.
CACH, Zach Shack, hot dogs.
Of course, yeah. Happy to do the stream. Thank you for tuning in.
They're open very late. Yep. Oh, they're only open until 11:45.
All right, dialing up game
That's when you
2.
go to Hammy's 'cause
Take a look at some hands.
I will also.
Andrew's going to quickly send them back, and Bradley's as well. So both players going to 6.
I'm actually not even sure it's open anymore. But have you been to Hammy's? That's late night pizza. Like they're open until.
I mean, there's something good, that's a really good feeling when you mulligan and your opponent mulligans too. You're like, sigh of relief. It's a really bad feeling when you're on the play and you mulligan and your opponent keeps the 7.
Sneeze.
Yeah, it feels like you're both doing it in service of a better game.
It's like 20th or something.
I mean, the real next level thing is to ask your opponent if they want to draw the game so that you can both then go to 7 cards. Things that are technically allowed are allowed in a match of Magic.
Sorry, I'm still
I
trying
could say I've never done that. So it looks like Andrew's considering keeping a 1-lander. It's a little sketch in this matchup, but you are on the draw. Going down to 5 cards is a little rough too. I mean, I think it's defensible on the draw to keep the 1-lander, and which is a very serviceable hand otherwise, and just kind of hope that you get there. You're also sitting on the Witherbloom command, which could help you hit the next land. But it looks like we are not hitting it on this first draw step. And fortunately,
Has no targets there for that Inquisition.
holy moly. I mean, both hands are looking okay. All right, Matter Reshaper's kind of tying the room together a little bit
Oh,
here if
boy.
you're on Bradley's side.
Doing it.
And
Oh,
this
buddy.
might be a quick game.
Yeah.
I'll cast it on.
Just one of those things when you keep the 1-lander, you just accept that, you know, there's the possibility it's going to be quick.
Hello.
Bradley taking a quick look at Witherbloom commands. Do any of these matter? Yes, Witherbloom command can potentially get Andrew a 3rd land if we hit the 2nd one.
I will try and play.
That's relevant enough. It could also get that relic off the board as well.
Right. Yeah.
And we do hit a 2nd land, but with 3 Voidwalkers in hand and no access to green sources, it looks like Tarmogoyf, 3 Voidwalker with a swamp and an Urza Saga out looks pretty bad.
That's a little bit awkward there.
Yep. This will be. We might actually get to game 3.
Go ahead.
Well, for those tuning in for the first time, we are here every Monday starting at 7 Pacific time. We're on the West Coast, and looks like we just got a concession there from Andrew. But yeah, every Monday, tune in. We'll be here doing paper Magic coverage, Modern, 4 rounds. We're in the last one. We're going to game number 3.
It's like you keep that or you go to 5. You know, like
Yeah. it's like,
And this is where we get to see if both players are pretty happy with their sideboarding decisions, and it looks
pretty
like
good shot.
they are.
So someone in chat is named IPA for breakfast, and it's 1 a.m. in New York, and they're watching.
unlikely.
Is it breakfast time right now? Are we drinking IPA?
Very big brain.
I mean,
Is
you
it
know,
technically breakfast if it's after
we
midnight?
we go out sometimes and have MFP breakfast plus an IPA. All right. We're going to race out there and make sure we get that battery changed so that we can get the end of this match. 7:30 a.m. in Germany. Oh, yeah. That's real breakfast time. But maybe not IPA for breakfast time. Have IPAs caught on in Germany? So some things I'm curious about. All right. Taking a look at opening hands. We're going to hope that both players have something good so we can get a competitive 3rd game. It looks like Andrew has a solid opener Looks like Fetchland Pass, or is that maybe Blooming Marsh Pass? Bradley Tower into Pithing Needle. I have to imagine you're naming Boseiju in the blind. We can check with Travis here when he gets back. Did you hear what Pithing Needle named, Travis?
I did not. I did not. I was too busy climbing on ladders, changing batteries.
right.
I put myself in near-death situations just for the stream to happen.
Goodness. All right, we are going to make the assumption that Pithing Needle named Boseiju, and we'll see if we're proven otherwise. IPAs are a hipster thing in Germany, turns out. Thanks for the info. All right, Dark Confidant hits the battlefield. Does Bradley have an answer for not Bob?
Oh, we're casting a Chalice on 1, so
That's very reasonable here. Because that is going to stop that Shadow Spear from entering the battlefield. But again, I mean, Witherbloom Command looks good against the Chalice deck. Don't know if Andrew has it in hand. Let's take a look. See what we've got. Looks like we
Assassin's
might have a
Trophy, maybe?
command.
I think it's
Oh yeah, we do have the Witherbloom command. That's actually great. So take out the Chalice. I imagine we're doing a mill 3 and get a land. We are milling Bradley and grabbing a land. Interesting.
what is it called? Why would you have Etron Mill? Is there a line?
If you decided to board in surgical extraction, and you are looking to take away their ability to get Tron, I think that's a reasonable choice.
Also, okay, another thought is Bradley. We have seen the crypt, and so Bradley's not going to fill his graveyard as quickly as Andrew is. So then you're sort of insulating your Tarmogoyf a little bit from a crypt effect, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable as well. All right. Our Confidant's dealing some damage here. Not the crime punishment amount of damage we saw earlier, but it's picked up 3. Bradley has been missing land drops, which is a rough place to be if you are Etron. And it looks like we're going to start dialing up the pressure with the Goyf on board for Andrew. And the Miser's Golgari Rot Farm going to provide some value.
I do like the Rod Farm in this deck, where you're able to play out your Boseiju and then bounce it later, and yeah, I think it's cool utility to see.
There's a lot of like cool lines you can do with that, especially with Reclaimer. You know, let's say your opponent tries to target your Saga in play, you can Reclaimer, grab your Golgari Rot Farm, bounce the Saga to hand to dodge some sort of removal.
And you can feel really big brained when you do something like that too.
Yes, you do.
Which I feel like that adds, even though it's good, like that adds a huge amount of extra spice points.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, there's some moments where just I think it's like when people play like a one of Divert in Legacy, which I don't want to derail us too much, but just one of those majorly swingy moments that can make you feel super big brain for your choices.
No, it's okay. I just wasn't paying attention.
I mean, we're in a tough spot for Bradley. Just still missing land drops.
Oh boy. Okay. Wonder Rods aren't super helpful. I'll go Swamp. I'll go 2 for
And Andrew with a solid grip of cards.
for life. I always forget that's
Gonna drop another Tarmogoyf.
2 to equip Shadow Spear to the
And toss a Shadow Spear on it.
and
So the clock has gotten real. Before it was just the card advantage that Dark Confidant represented. Now we're basically making Bradley have it for next turn. If Bradley doesn't have it next turn, then we have lethal on board on Andrew's side.
So I take 7. All right.
and
Have a turn.
Yeah.
Can't all is dust with
Yep.
2 lands.
Find the expedition map, but casting your expedition map into your chalice on 1 is not the way.
Cast a Matter Reshaper. Pass.
All right, our hero, Matter Reshaper. It's gonna have to reshape harder than it's ever done before.
Confidant.
2. Yep, I gotcha.
Dark Confidant flips. Dark Confidant.
Removal spell probably does it here.
Yeah, this one might be done and dusted.
Oh, it's Assassin's
That
Trophy.
is a
Yep.
trophy.
And I don't even get to pitch a
That
miss.
is going
Good
to.
game.
All right, good games. Yes.
All right, that is going to do it.
Never got that spell.
All right. I want to thank everyone in chat for hanging out. It's been cool seeing folks show up, be active, watching the stream lately. We're Portland Paper, hanging out at Guardian Games. We're here every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time doing Paper, Modern, Magic the Gathering 4 rounds. And we hope to see you next week. We'll leave you with a bop as we head out.